welcome to another episode of See I Am Me. I am your host, Rashawn Warren. Today, we're going to be bringing on Coach D, my old basketball coach back in the day when I had a little skills. These days, not so much, but definitely impactful in my life. Definitely an individual who was all about growing, developing, coaching, but not only coaching, mentoring young men to become the better version of themselves. So right now we're going to go ahead and bring in Coach D.
Hey, Ray. Thank you, my friend. Good to be with you.
No, it's good to have you on. I'm so glad that you could take the time to get on the show. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, real people, real stories. We got a long, rich history. And I'll start off a quick story for everyone, right? So back when I was a youngster coming out of Fort Worth, Texas, going to Kent State University, the Golden Flashes. Started off my basketball career there, but it didn't really start off super awesome, right? You know, you remember my freshman year, I was academically ineligible. I had to sit around and watch everybody else play for the most part. But one thing that came out of that is that the school had an opportunity to either hold on to me or send me back to the house because I didn't uphold my end of the bargain. But ultimately, I stayed with the school. We won a few conference championships, us in life, first class uptown all the way, you know, all those high speed things. And Coach D was instrumental in helping me get back on my feet and moving forward. And I always thanked you, or wanted to thank you, for just being a good person, being somebody of good faith, and just developing us. So with that, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing these days.
Man, Ray, well, first of all, it's awesome to be with you, and it's awesome to hear that when you say thank you, you don't need to say thank you. What you've done every single day of your life since you left us is more than the thanks that any coach has ever needed or wanted, to be honest. I I know we might get into some other things, I'll circle back to that, but I remember that day. I don't know if you do. I remember that day outside the gymnasium. It actually was more closer to where the gymnastics door was.
Mm-hmm.
And you were sitting on the floor and you had tears in your eyes and you had just found out. And I don't know if I was one of the first coaches to find out or not, but the pain that you were experiencing at that moment was palpable. Like it was something that any human, take out coaching and everything else, right? Start with just being a human. You would feel for what that moment meant and how impactful it was for you and your fear of what this potentially could mean. And again, as coaches, there was never going to be an intention of sending you back unless you said, like, hey, screw you suckers, man, you didn't do enough to help me or something like that, which is not in your nature in any way, shape, or form. But I do remember it. So again, the thankfulness is appreciated, Ray, but seriously, what you have done with the life, the man you are, the father you are, the husband you are, the military officer that you are, the things that you've accomplished in your life goes way beyond any of that. And there's not a single one of us that would look anything but with pride for all that you've done. So let me start with that. The second aspect, what you asked me, was I've been so stinking blessed. I mean, you got to play for Gary. I got to work with that guy. You played for him for 4 years. I worked with him for 25. I mean, that man is so impactful. I mean, I'm fortunate. I got an unbelievable father, still alive today. He turned 82 here in about a month, and in really good health and good mind, spirit. Just a great example. But probably the second most important person in my life would be Gary. And the things I learned from him were just, I mean, it's hard to put into words how much he meant to me, because I saw what he was doing for our men today. And Ray, hopefully we get some time to talk about it. I often question and wonder if he could still be as impactful today. Gary's a brilliant dude, so he could probably adjust to today's day and age with the NIL and the collectives and kids transferring and the realities of what college basketball has really become. But it's harder, and the challenges, the way he challenged and pushed you, and you guys especially, because you were in that first group that had to experience like all the stuff he had built up in his mind for what he was going to do for the next 20 years as a head coach. And you guys were like the guinea pigs, man. Like he just was doing stuff that I'm just blown away by. So let's start with the fact that I'm thankful for those 25 years. I got to be a college coach. I got to be around unreal humans like yourself and so many others. And I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the leadership he taught me. And I'm also really thankful for the man, the husband he was, and the priority he put on being a good husband to my wife in a profession that is incredibly hard. Like it's incredible. My wife just took on the brunt of so many things of our family and raising our family. And we're fortunate to have two beautiful, successful, well-adjusted kids. And it's a big part. You know, Gary, here's a great reminder that he would tell me all the time. So we had Abby. Ray, you were probably a sophomore when we had Abby. So my first kid, and you know, I was the guy back at Kent State that was always, you know, I was around all the guys. I wasn't out on the road recruiting. I was taking care of us, taking care of all the things in the locker room or the gear or whatever it was, or going to Country Kitchen for breakfast or whatever we had, right? Or the other, what was the all-you-could-eat place that we would go to on Stowe Road, Ray? What was the heck? The Golden Corral, the GC, the Golden Corral. And so, but then when I had Abby, you know, it was this new dimension in my life. And again, just him prioritizing a couple of things, right? Obviously prioritizing the fact that I had a baby, but he would remind me, he says, when you go home, you make sure that you hug your wife first. You hug her first, and then you see your child. Like, put that as a priority. Well, that turned into, and it's a running joke with my kids, is I always say like, hey, I chose her. Like I chose her. So she comes first. You suckers, you just came along, man. You all just showed up. I said, but I chose her. And so she's always going to have the priority. And that's really a Gary Waters ism. Now, here's my last part about Gary and how this transitions. And I just told him this story about maybe less than a week ago. I said, Coach, it's really interesting because Coach was retiring from Cleveland State. And he said, I had this opportunity. I was going to go to Valparaiso to continue coaching, but Tyler was a freshman in high school, going to be a freshman in high school. And I was nervous. It was a new coach at Valpo. They were transitioning into the Missouri Valley. I didn't know them. I liked a number of their guys on their staff, but I had 25 years with one guy. I was so fortunate with that. And I got this call to be the Crossroads League commissioner. And I didn't know anything about it. But a guy just said, you know, I think you'd like it. I think you'd be good at it. And I said, well, let me look into it. So I looked into it and I went to Coach. I said, Coach, what do you think? And he goes, Larry, he said, I think you got to do it. I think you'd be unbelievable in this job. And so I was like, man, I guess great. I got Coach's blessing. That's big time, man. I'm gonna dive into this thing while I get the job. And then about a month or two later, I start to think, and I go, man, I was working 25 years for the guy who basically told me to get out of the profession, man. You gotta go do something else, sucker. You ain't good enough for this job. And so and Coach laughed about it. But listen, I'm heading into my 8th year as the Crossroads League commissioner. It's 10 faith-based schools. I'd love for people to check us out. Crossroadsleague.com. You can get there. Selfless plug, of course, Ray. Sorry. But it's a great 10 faith-based institutions. It's high-level athletics across the board. And I just fell into this job. I'm so fortunate to be around people. I just stopped. I live fairly close to Spring Arbor. They've got a volleyball match tonight. When our game is over our podcast is over, I'll be running over to that game and watch them. I get to see all of the opponents when they come in. If you want to tune it in tonight, Tyler will be he'll be announcing the game. Go to the league website. You can click on the watch button. You'll have Tyler in the background. He's going to be announcing the game. But it's such a blessing for me to be able to go back and be a part of all of these faith-based institutions and these high-level coaches who are doing this job, such a tremendous job, and they don't make a lot of money. They're doing it because of the favor and the opportunity to influence kids from a faith-based perspective. And they do it so well. And it's humbling, Ray. Honestly, it's just humbling. I get to be around all of these people that are just incredible leaders. And I continue to learn. And I feel like I learned from one of the best. Like Gary Waters was truly one of the best leaders and impact guy for men, right? He was raising his job. He felt compelled to make sure you came out of his program a man, right? Like a man's man. He was going to challenge you physically. He was going to challenge you emotionally. He was going to challenge you spiritually. Like he was not leaving. He was going to challenge you academically. Like he was not leaving a stone unturned to help you become the best you can be. And that, Ray, you are living proof of what it can mean when you can challenge somebody at that level and get to them and get them to understand. Even some of those ones that are a little more challenging, like we talked about earlier in our friend Dimitri Shaw, right? Like great stories with all that. So anyway, there you go, Ray. I'm the commissioner of the Crossroads League, and I love every minute of this job. It's been awesome.
Yeah, you said crossroadleague.com.
You got it. Crossroadsleague.com with an S. Crossroads. Yeah, crossroadsleague.com. Great place. Great. 10 great institutions. Come on. We'll take you.
All right. So that was the other plug. All right. So we're gonna go to a quick commercial break, and we're gonna come back and jump straight into the interview.
Hello. Welcome to Veritas. I'm your host, Adam Colazetti, and I'm here to guide you on a meditative adventure like no other. Join me and lose yourself in your imagination as we travel the outer reaches of the cosmos, quest for powerful talismans, and explore the inner realm of your subconscious. What might you find along the way? But be warned, fair traveler, this path is not for the faint of heart. On this path, of one thing I am certain, dragons be here. Are you ready?
All right, so Coach D, earlier you were talking about Coach Gary Waters. For everybody out there, Coach Gary Waters was my college coach at Kent State University. I would laugh all day right now because I just have so many stories about that guy. And then me and the other players, our young jokes, we had our own little thing. But you're absolutely right, man. His enthusiasm, he was so enthusiastic. Zest for the game. He was pushing us. I still can't believe I was running miles in 5 minutes and 30 seconds. You know what I mean? So like when I tell people that, they're like, "That's not true." I'm like, no, that was happening. Everybody was doing it.
Yes.
But as it pertains to you, Coach, you've been just as instrumental. You know what I mean? You got to pat yourself on the back as well because, like you said earlier, you were taking care of those little things, but those things don't go unnoticed, right? But also, if I had to say anything, the person that I believe that was the closest to us was you, because we felt like you were the person to go to for everything. So, so your impact on us is profound and unmeasurable. But for all these years, you've been doing so much in the land of basketball, coaching. Not only coaching, but being around young men and women, watching them grow and develop. So how has your journey expanded over this time? From you being at Kent State coaching and now being at Crossroads. How did that middle part work out? How did you transition?
That's a great question, Ray. I always think I go back. So if you might not remember this, but for 4 years I was a very young head coach. I was a head coach at Concordia College in Ann Arbor, and man, I was bad. I was not good at all. And you don't know how bad you are until you get around somebody like Gary, who had a really definitive plan and knew how to put it into action. And so you kind of flying by some of it. I would say my first year at Concordia, I tried to do everything opposite of the guy I finished playing my career for at Spring Arbor, because I didn't believe in how he was doing it. So it was almost like a direct opposite effect. And that really wasn't very good. It wasn't the right way. And really, I was just simply coaching basketball. I was not investing in the kids like I should be. I think to those young men, and I'm still close with a number of them, and they're all gracious and they're all kind and they say nice things today as we are older. But I know I was bad, and I know I wasn't overly good for them. I think at my heart, and listen, I've come from two incredibly good parents who have tremendous hearts. My mom has a heart of gold, and she would help anybody at any time. And I think that really, I hope that that is transcended through me. I hope that some of my mom shows up in how I interact with people. Because I think that's really, I don't know if there's anything more valuable or more important than for us to be able to help somebody else. And so for Gary, the crux of all of it, Ray, was that like the things that Gary would have you guys doing and challenging you, some of it was kind of opposed to how I truly felt. Like I could see the effort going into it, and you might come across that mile marker at 5:40, and it could be a ridiculously good time, and Gary Waters would be after you about not reaching the goal. Where I could see the effort and would be almost the guy that would be like, hey, great job, man. You're crushing it. You're doing it. And he would be like, that sucker, he ain't giving enough, man. He can give more. There's more in there, Larry. I mean, come on. And he used to say all the time, right? I mean, poor Jenna over there, she doesn't know Coach, but right, this takes us right back. Larry, come on, sucker. Come on. That sorry sucker, he can do more than that, Larry. You and your bleeding heart, Larry. Come on, Larry. My family loves it whenever I talk in the same way that Coach would, they know that Larry is always going to come. But what it taught me was that you need to stay in there, right? So I really adopted, this was really more from Jason G, who I worked with at Cleveland State later on. We really hung on to Ephesians 4:15 and truth and love, right? Like it's we are called as Christians to tell each other the truth, and when you clothe it in love and sincere love, right? And love is not just words; love is actions. So yeah, my job was to make sure we had breakfast pregame at the Country Kitchen, right? That was my job. But the encounters and the interaction and the relationship stuff, man, those were gifts to me. Those were gifts because I got to be around guys who, again, we're in Kent, Ohio, right? Who would have known we were going to have two cats from Fort Worth, Texas? You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that we get to encounter on the people that intersect our lives. And if you really are paying attention, and try, you can just grow so much more as a person. And that's the thing. Like there were times, like Ray, let's go back to like 1999. I'm sure you can remember this. I mean, and so you remember my role, but we're getting ready to go play in the MAC tournament, right? And we had a great year in '99, but we're going to go play in the MAC tournament, and we advanced to play in the semifinals. So we had to go play Ohio University. Remember, they had Sean Stonerook. That was a great team at Ohio University that year, and we decided we had like an hour shoot around at their site at the site at the Seagate Center is where it was held in Toledo, and so we had a morning practice. We practiced from like 6:30 to 8:30 is what was on the schedule, and we had to be on the bus by 9 for our 11 o'clock shoot around or whatever. Well, practice goes like 45 minutes over the 2-hour slot we're supposed to practice, right? We've already got in 2 hours and 45 minutes. And we get on the bus, and of course, Coach is like, Larry, you got to get a hold of them suckers in the MAC. We're going to be late. Tell them we got bus trouble, something. We're like, we got to get on that court. We got to be able to get on that court. So I'm over there shucking and jiving, going, hey, we're running into some traffic. I don't think, can we squeeze some time on, right? And so we go and we get to there, and we did. We just shot free throws. I don't know if you remember. We did some shooting around. We did our normal routine. We shot around, did some stuff, but then we shot some free throws, and it wasn't that intense. And then, of course, Coach is like, you got to get us another court. We are not ready to play this game. We got to go, and we went to Owens Tech for another hour and a half. And I was like, Gary Waters, we are going to get we're going to get the doors beat off of us. Our guys are dead. I remember Ed came to my room that night. He's like, Coach D, man, Coach D. I said, Ed, I said, listen, you're the most prepared team in the country. I said, let's just go. And again, that was the semifinal, and remember, they went in. I remember they didn't even use their time. They shot free throws. They didn't do anything, right? And we went in there and we drilled them, like just drilled them. and obviously it was leading up to winning the first championship, in the school's history. And again, he pushed us so hard. So yes, he pushed you. You guys caught the brunt of the physicality. I was catching the brunt of, you got to make sure we can still get this done. I tell people all the time, I don't know if I was a very good assistant coach. I honestly don't. I don't know if I would be a very good assistant coach for anybody else, but I was good for Gary. I knew I was good for Gary because basically I don't think I ever told him no. We just found a way to get things done. And in those challenges at those times, I wasn't always 100% behind everything he did. But that is what I've learned, is that you can challenge, you can push, you can figure out how to get there. And it's not, Gary used to say it all the time, right? There's multiple ways to paint a house. Or what he would probably say back in your day was, there's lots of ways to skin the cat now.
Yeah.
Don't skin the cat before you get to the end product, right? Like, just give it its time. And I'm so thankful for those years, Ray, because it has easily helped me navigate. One of the unique things about this job is that it is 10 faith-based institutions, but I've got a couple of Catholic League schools, and I've got a Mennonite school, and I've got a missionary school, and I have a non-denominational, and I've got a Free Methodist. And we're integrating, even though it's still faith-based, we are still talking about an integration of faith from multiple different denominations. And so there's different challenges that comes with that. And just being able to use some of those leadership qualities, to listen, to know when to make sure you're forcing the agenda to try to help them improve, knowing you're right. Or I don't say about knowing you're right, but knowing it's what is good for the conference, not necessarily just good for an individual, is something that I think I take from all of those years of experience. One thing that Gary did definitely teach me too is, I thought Gary was insanely consistent. Like, you knew what you were going to get from Coach Waters, and I did too. I didn't always like it, and I guarantee you didn't always like it, but you knew what you were going to get, and you knew that there came from a place of love to challenge you, to get you to be the best you can. And so I think that time frame that I've had, I just look back on it, Ray, and I'm so eternally thankful. Like, listen, if the good Lord takes me home tomorrow, I will simply say thank you, Lord. Like, you have provided a beautiful life. I am incredibly thankful. Don't get me wrong, I'll be sad. I don't want to die tomorrow, but if I know where I'm going, and I can be thankful for what I've been given.
Yeah, I think when I think back on that from the stories that you just told, when you start to set the conditions for young folks, and you start to let them see what's possible, because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of things I'm like, man, this stuff is stupid. They got us out here doing all this, and and all of us are teaming up, because all of us are together. Like, yeah, I guess we're gonna miss lunch again, dinner again, because practice is about to go 20 minutes over. So we're one thing that we really did believe is that we were winners. We like, every day I still tell people when they ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm remarkable. I still, say us in life. Like I said earlier, first class uptown on the way. I remember Blackwell. I remember all those things that you all introduced to us to help us become not only better basketball players, but better people. And now when I traverse my life, and when I converse with folks, or I go speak to folks, majority of those lessons learned that I talk about come from that specific period of time. I think that was a period of time from where I come from, things not always rosy, if you will. But then I think that was the first time that values were harped upon at a high level. I think not only from a mental or physical conditioning point, just being around a lot of other people who were trying to accomplish a goal. I remember we were playing against Villanova, and at Villanova, I think, and Coach tried to come with this corny speech, right? The speech was corny, so I'll say it these years later. The speech was corny, and he was like, "Ray, they don't know you can fly like the wind," and I'm thinking, like, look at this cat right here. It was like, ain't none of us believe in this man, but I understand where you're trying to come from, right? But
Right. Yes.
but if you go out there, and I remember those jokers couldn't get the ball past half court. We was pressing them so hard, and we were so dialed in. But it felt like that speech prompted that, you know. So the words that were given us, the multiple times that people tried to put something positive in our mental reservoir, grew us, and that's the only thing that we talked about. You couldn't tell us that we couldn't beat anybody on any given day, and I think that was something that the team, you know, not just Gary, but the team of that was assembled, was able to work well together. Hey, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk some more.
Hello, we are the MD and Chef team. I'm nutritional chef Michael, joined by my beautiful wife, Dr. Isabel, medical doctor and suicide survivor.
Yes, I was dropped into the world of mental illness back in 2013, and by the grace of God, I survived suicide. But here's what I learned. We don't have a mental illness issue. That's the downstream event. We're focusing downstream. We should be focusing upstream on our brain health and all the things that we can be doing to support our brain health. Because you see, it's like mopping up the floor when the sink is overflowing instead of turning off the faucet. So come and join us on the MD and Chef Team show.
Come join us.
Yeah, in the writings that you gave me, when you talked a little bit about yourself, when we started talking about athletics, how athletics can be a powerful tool as it pertains to helping people grow, changing young people's lives, in fact. So how do you feel like you're over the league, you got things going, you see all of these tremendously talented young folks getting after it? How do you feel that sports is a tool to help those people grow?
Oh, come on, Ray. You and I both know. I mean, so a couple of things. One, I wish I knew, because sports is the only world I've really known. I played sports from the time I was a kid, and then I did it for a profession, and now I'm still getting to do it in some manner in a profession. I'm much more administrative than I am hands-on, but and I'm sure it happens, right? Like, I'm sure there is things in being a thespian and an actor and being a part of a play and wanting to get the lead role and having to not be the lead role and have to do your best in a supporting cast, or maybe, you know, you want to be first chair saxophone and you're second chair, third chair, but you still have a legitimate part to play in order to make the music that needs to be performed. Athletics comes with similar aspects, right? Like, everybody wants to be the star, right? I mean, I hope not to diverge too much from what you were saying, but let's think back to one of the guys that you played with, and Trevor Huffman. And Trev, you know, was really good, right? He's probably goes down as maybe the best player to ever play at Kent State. He might still be the all-time leading scorer. I don't know if anybody has surpassed him, but and Trev came off the bench for 2 years, you know, like, and Trevor used to come into coach's office every day to say, you know, like, man, I should be a starter. And I got, you know, we all could understand that, but we also then of course Sports Illustrated wrote this great article on us, and Trevor gets all this highlights about being the only guy in the NCAA to lead his team in scoring and assists and coming off the bench, and then it all worked out pretty good for him. But that's the natural desire, and it's even more so today, right? Right now, NIL, collective money, the opportunity for kids. I would tend to believe that I bet you half of our team would have transferred if it was the way it is today, because it was hard. And because there really wasn't, I don't even know if anybody even thought there was an option to transfer. Obviously, Shaw came to us, right? I mean, Shaw was a transfer kid. He had to sit out his year. But it wasn't overly common. Transferring was almost looked at as a little bit more taboo. Now today, it's not taboo at all. It's as soon as you don't like the way something is going, you are putting your name in the portal and trying to find a greener pasture someplace else. So I think that when you think about athletics, I'm afraid that we're sliding downwards towards that impact. And what I really would say about it and I mean this, I'll be very interested to get your thoughts on this, right? Because this is how I would define Gary Waters. So I think there are two types of coaches, right? There's transactional coaches. Listen, you do what I ask you to do, and I'm going to get you out on the floor, and you're going to perform. And hopefully it takes you to the NBA or someplace else, and you're going to get something more out of it. But it ain't going to be about our relationship. It's not going to be about me trying to make you a better man. Or there's transformational, that I'm going to help try to transform you. Now, here's what I think about Coach, and I'll be very interested to get your opinion on this. I always say this, man, if Coach hears this, he's going to be all over me. Gary was intentional about what took place on that court. There was a transactional component to Gary Waters and Rayshawn Warren or Trevor Huffman or Andrew Mitchell on that court. You're going to do it my way, period. There's no variance. This isn't about you, Ray. This is about this team, and we're going to do it the way I need you to do it. But off the floor, that guy was as transformational as there could be. Like he wanted, like, you know, those Sunday night Waters words of wisdom stuff, like bringing stuff in from faith, us, you know, our quote unquote Olympics, you know, what we did every Labor Day, right? The flag football games, the softball games, the stuff that we did that were extra, the Tom Blackwells, bringing in Tom Blackwell to just, you know, invest in our kids was so transformational beyond even him. But boy, let me tell you something, when you mess with his time, like, you know, his time, that was really he was transactional in that aspect, right? At least that's how it felt to me. What do you think when I say that, Ray? How do you feel? You played for him. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Well, you know, I think it's fair, you know what I mean? Because I think when you start thinking about people being transactional, right? You know, he wanted everything to be the way that he wanted things to be. And if you disagree, then he would lose his temper. So I'll give an example, right? So we're in Puerto Rico, I believe. I believe we were in Puerto Rico or Hawaii. It was one of them. And then Ed yelled at him or something that got into it about something. And he took Ed out the game. Ed was on the bench, cussing and fussing, you know. The weird thing about it that all of us took Ed's side anyway. We didn't tell nobody. We were all on Ed's team. So we're like, yeah, Coach tripping out here right now. And then and I remember at the practice, he didn't start Ed with the team, right? So he put Ed on the practice team or whatever, and Ed was killing. He was playing so good. And I was thinking to myself, is this even making any sense? Because ultimately what was happening was he fractured himself right then and there. I know that wasn't intent, but he fractured himself because he made us choose between our teammate and the coach. And we sat in a room all night talking about that, you know, like what were we going to do? Like, but then we're like, you know, let's just get out there and play. I think at that point, you know, we all knew like, oh, this is just who he is. This is how he want to do stuff. We want to win. Let's continue to push forward. I know that was a discussion none of us had with y'all, but at that moment, he made us choose, but we just all wanted to win. The group was so close that it didn't matter. But the thing that made up for that was the things from a transformational aspect, because we knew that he wanted us to be good people. You know, like there's a difference when somebody wants you to be a good player, because maybe we may think that if we win, it helps them win. If we win, we all get something in return. You know, like the accolades maybe mean something to some people. The money means something to some people. The potential to go to the next level and do something and build their life means something to some people. But when you're looking at bringing in and developing people, that's a whole different thing, because now you know it's not about that individual. Every time you introduce a new person to come talk to you, just purely for professional development and growth, now you know that individual cares about you. When you I remember you brought in the guy who would have us meditate, and before the game, I was sitting there with him with the lights cut off, and It was almost like he was like trying to hypnotize me or something. I don't know what he was doing, but it made me feel like I could do better. I could play better. And like you said, Blackwell's, talking to us, and not only just talking to us, but actually doing like a seminar with us and spending time with us, reflect on who we were. Those things from a transformational aspect were things that we were able to take into our lives. Now, I can't say that everybody took something into their life, but all I know is that some of the things that I received during that stint in my career in college, I use a lot of those things now. I've expressed where I can, and I think shaped and molded a lot of who I became as an individual. So from being transactional and being transformational, it is kind of weird because, most leaders are only one.
Yes, right.
Not many leaders have the wherewithal or the emotional intelligence to understand that they can actually do both. You can get what you want to accomplish and push people and drive people for greatness, but you also got to remember that you must develop them at some point, because the now, which at that point was basketball at Kent State University, is a small microcosm of who we are as people in the totality of our life, but give us tools to help us move forward. So yeah, I agree that he was both, and he did both really good. We were able to come together and win, but I think we were able to win because we were close, and we were willing to push each other for one common goal.
Ray, that's a great story, and I'll back it up here because there's another component to it. It's interesting to hear your version of it from the player side, and I can give you the specifics. We were playing Boise State in Hawaii. We were getting beat so bad, Gary went to a zone, which we never played zone.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Ed was pissed that we were playing zone. And so this was like a pissing match. And back then we didn't have, remember when you went and played there was no locker rooms. We were outside. We had a bus wait for us. We were outside. And Gary Waters and Ed Norvell go nose to nose. You from Detroit? I'm from the real Detroit, sucker. I mean, I thought, oh my gosh. So we had this blow up, and whatever. We go back into coach's room later that night, and we're sitting around with the coaches, and you know all the players in this, so you can understand how this was. Keep in mind, Garland Mance was from Detroit too, and he had put up with Ed and some stuff from Ed long before. So Garland had some built up stuff on Ed that he wasn't feeling. And so coach says, what are we going to do about Ed Norvell? And he goes, you got all of us sitting around the room, and you'll die laughing with this. So he goes, Garland, what do you think? Garland's like, man, we're going to send that sucker home. And we're done with that fool. We're done with him. He's going home, man. I'm tired of that sucker. He's killing this program. He's a cancer. He's got to go. Okay. Coach Heck, what do you think? Yeah, I don't think he can stay. I don't. All right, Coach D, what do you think? Listen, I don't know if we're going to send him home, but I don't know how the heck I'm going to get him home, right? I'm immediately into, I don't know where I'm going to get a plane ticket. How am I going to get the bus back home? Like, I've got all these logistic things in my mind. And Coach looks at all of us. He goes, okay, thanks. He says, I appreciate y'all. He said, we're going to sit him down for a half against Oregon State. So we sat him for a half against Oregon State. Oregon State blitzed us, and then it trickled over. He came back and played, and we got beat by Division II Hawaii Hilo. All right? We come back. We're on this 11-day trip. We come back, and we are sitting at Northern Illinois, and we're having a team meeting at Northern Illinois. TJ Lux, a guy I'm sure you remember well, right? Yep. TJ Lux was a baller, no question. And Northern Illinois was good. And we're having a team meeting, and Ed is sitting in the back of the room. He's not even up on the chairs with us. He's sitting in the back of the room. And we're like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking to myself, this is over, man. Like, this ain't gonna work. We're gonna be sending that sucker back on the next Greyhound back to Kent, Ohio, man. This is just not gonna work. And I don't know if you remember this or not, Ray, but I remember it as clear as day. And at the end, Gary was like, anybody got anything else to say? And Ed goes, yeah, I got something to say. I got something to tell everybody. And we thought, oh man, he gonna blast G-dubs, right? This is gonna be a disaster. He goes, I know the problem. It's me. I'm the problem. And I promise you today, it will change. It will change today. I promise you. I think this was after we played Northern Illinois. I think we had lost to Northern Illinois before we were busing to Ball State. And then we go and play this amazing game against Ball State. We've been getting beat by everybody that first year. And we go play. They got Bonzi Wells, right? It's this great game. And Ed plays his tail off. He's unreal, Ed Norvell. And you'll remember because Bonzi makes like a 3/4 court shot to win the game. We hit Ed hits a 3 to put us up, and we're celebrating like nuts, and nobody thinks about they throw the ball to Bonzi, takes one dribble, he uncorks it, and then he goes and runs right out of the tunnel. We don't even see him. He doesn't even shake hands with us afterwards, and we're devastated. Now, Ray, I'm telling you right now, you can go back to every record. You go back and look at every record. Kent State did not lose back-to-back games. They did not lose back-to-back games until we lost. And I don't know, I can't remember if you were a part of this team or not, but we lost to Ohio University in the last game. Was that your senior year? We lost to Ohio University. Yeah, I think so, because we ended up going to the NIT. And he and Gary just absolutely undressed Kyram after the loss against Ohio University. He went after, he gambled on a pass. It wasn't Stone Rook, I can remember, and we lost. We lost back-to-back games. Go back to the record.
That was my junior year, I believe.
That was your junior year? Okay. And so it was the year in 99 we won and went to the NCAA. This was in 2000 then, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then 2001 was your senior year.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? I have that right?
Yeah. We lost to Cincinnati my senior year.
Yes. So that, like the vividness, if you go back and check the records, I'm telling you, I promise you, we did not lose back-to-back conference games or any games from that point forward. And Ed Norvell, even though I know Bonzi Wells was the player of the year that year or whatever, Ed Norvell, senior year, he was the most dominant player in the league, and he averaged like 8 points a game. Like he was just unbelievable with what he did and how he dominated the game offensively, defensively, selflessly. And I just go back and I think about Gary Waters and the transformation that young man had. And you probably remember Gary told stories about the first time he met Ed. He had his hat pulled down way low and he had, all black. He looked like he was just all dressed in black and everything was dark. And then he said when he got done and he was finished, came in with his nice white shoes and everything was light and he was up and happy. He's like he had this complete transformation. And I don't know if all that is true, but I would say Ed Norvell. Honestly, Ed Norvell is one of the greatest success stories of it. And it goes back to the beginning of it was two Detroit guys nose to nose thinking, oh my gosh, these two suckers are going to swing on each other. And I didn't ever know that it put you guys in that situation. I know how we felt as coaches. And this is why your group was special, because you could get past all of that and prioritize. We just want to win. We just want to do something special. And I don't know if that's all G-Dub led by any means. If it's led by him, it's certainly a part of it, no question. He was always trying to mold those factors to keep us together and be unified. But I think it also says a lot about the individual men we had in that room or on that team. And I think it's a collection that made you guys so special.
Yeah, I definitely believe so. We the crazy thing is we used to spend the night. All the team would sit in Ed's room every day. So and we would go over to Ed's room and we'll all just be all of us cramped in his little room and just sitting there and listening to him tell his little stories and stuff because he was our leader at that point in time. What I mean? We hung up almost everywhere that guy said, especially for all those youngsters. Because he was like a big brother. He's like the big brother. He looked out for everybody, not even just for things that we did. And I think it's imperative that when we start thinking about teams, like you said earlier, we place a lot of emphasis on coaches. Most people do, place a lot of emphasis on coaches. And hopefully one day coaches will become a mentor to us once we're away from them. And we start thinking about the things that we have going on in our life, especially if we want to go the same path that they went. Most people typically reach out to the coach and look for some mentorship to better their lives. But the real, in my mind, the real connect comes from the players. you just spend so much time with each other. You just endure so much. It feels like, like if you're throwing up because you've been running too much, or like if you run in the bleachers, everyone's doing it together, and the coaches are just watching. So like all these jokers out there watching, they're gonna run us again. They don't care. Oh, we got to run to the track to run a 5:30 mile and run back and play full court basketball. And I think for people out there who really focus, like this is for everybody out there, most people don't get the opportunity to play a collegiate sport. Most people don't get the chance to have that camaraderie. Most people don't have opportunity to go through things with other people. And if you're out there and you never had that experience, well, I'm here to tell you that it's one that you remember for the rest of your life, and because it becomes who you are. A lot of things that you build on, either good or bad, come from that institution of learning, which is sports at that point in time. And so like you with Crossroads, and I'm pretty sure you're like managing all this stuff. You get a chance to go see the things in action, the people in action, or witness other coaches and look how other coaches are handling things. So I think you're probably at that position where you're like, you know what, that's something I need to add in my kit bag. That's something I need to add to my kit bag. Hey, what's going on with that stuff over there? He ain't treating people the way they're supposed to be treated, right? So, you have a different perspective of all that, especially growing up as a player, a coach, now as an administrator, you like kind of check the block on all that stuff. So when you think about coaching and all of these folks that you're watching, I know I just mentioned a little bit about mentorship, but what do you think is the most important quality of a coach? What do you think a coach should have? And not only just in sports, but in life, what do you think a coach should have?
Well, I think it starts and ends with trust. I mean, you have to have people's trust, right? And I think about the things you're talking about with us and our history and playing with and working for Coach Waters. We trusted him. There's no question. We trusted him, and we knew that he loved us, even though we may not always agreed with how he showed that love. I'm sure Rakim didn't always agree with the way you showed him love, and just like Tyler doesn't always appreciate. I often say to my kids, listen, I'm never going to be the dad you want. I'm always going to be the dad you need. So just remember that, right? But I think if you really have to have their trust. It comes from that, and then part of earning trust, right, is comes in sincerity, and it also comes in consistency. Like where coaches get in, where most coaches get into probably the biggest amount of trouble is if they prioritize the winning. And again, there's different levels that have different aspects of it, right? So Ray, you spent a lot of time in the military. You've seen lots of strategies as to how to mold young men and young women into the service members that they need to be to complete the bigger task, right? It's still about playing your role inside of that. And some of that could be really hard, right? Like, again, transactional. Do this or give me 50, right? Or do this or you're going to have KP duty or whatever the punishment might be, because you're just trying to shape behavior. In athletics, it does still have a goal at the end of the day, because we do want to win. We just had this great Champions of Character summit when we had our fall coaches meeting here a couple of weeks ago. And one of my coaches said, I don't think God cares at all if we win or lose. I don't think he cares at all if we win or lose. He goes, but man, I sure do think he cares how we win or lose. Meaning who we are, what we represent is always going to be bigger than what the outcome is. Now, listen, Gary Waters could have still coached longer, right? I don't know if he retired from it, but you had back-to-back years of 9 wins. And it didn't matter that you graduated every single player that you had that stayed for you for 4 years. If you stayed and played for us for 4 years, you got your degree. Like that's unheard of across all of it, right? It's unheard of. I mean, I can tell you, we don't have to talk about them here, but I know the guys that don't have their degrees and why they don't have their degrees. And they're highly successful individuals, but it still comes back to the people that was a priority for Coach Waters, is that you were going to get your degree. Like he knew what that meant for the young men in his life. And the same thing, like you're pushing them to get to an area that is maybe not fully undercover, undescribed yet in your own mind. Like somebody is helping us along that journey to either A, believe in us, or B, help discipline us, because maybe we don't have that in ours. There's different, to love us, to just simply love us, to guide us. There's different. Everybody needs a little something different. It's not just a cookie cutter mentality. And I really believe that's one of the things that I think for my 25 years, I take a lot from Coach Waters, but his ability to reach so many people at so many different levels is something I would always aspire to. I think you probably had it in the military, Ray. I think you knew that to be the guy that you are, to advance the way you did in your career, you had to be able to know how to reach people at different levels. And I think that's special. I think that's where leadership is at its very best. And then if you're not willing to just, roll up the sleeves and be a part of it, and you're just trying to tell people how to do it from here, or like you just said, you guys are running around with 45-pound weights because somebody missed class, right? And the coaches are in the corner drinking coffee going, come on, suckers, faster, man. Hey, tell Dimitri he needs to get to class, and you're like, why are we doing this? Charles is the one who missed class. But it's the intent, right, is what it is. And there's those methods, some are archaic and maybe they don't work anymore, but it's also still just part of the journey to try to, if our main interest is to, you better make sure they trust you, you better make sure they know you love them, and you better be consistent in how you guide them, knowing that it's not all equal. It's just not ever going to be equal, and fair are not the two same things. It's just not.
Yeah, I think that comes with developing people, though, right? I personally don't believe that the actions from what we're responsible for, but being part of a team in college or any sports team, and being in the military is being part of a team. Military loves the acronyms, right? So when they say team, together, everyone achieves more. There's really something. If you're raised in a team, you understand that people are different. You understand people lead different. You understand some people have a high acumen for emotional intelligence. Some people don't. But the goal at the end of the day is the same. The goal is not to participate. The goal is to win. And winning isn't normal. Some people think winning is like everyone gets a win every day. Doesn't work like that. And all that hard work, dedication, sacrifice that goes into it. And we need coaches, we need leaders who are willing to push other people, because honestly, some people just don't got that self-starterism in them, right? And because if you gave me a chance to sit back and eat some cookies, I'm gonna sit back and eat some cookies. But if I know I'm gonna have to run a mile in 5 minutes and 30 seconds, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be out there running by myself. Cause I need to get out there, because I'm not going to play if I can't run this mile, right? But once you start to achieve those things that you first thought was daunting or unattainable, and if you run it once, you're like, well, now I know I can do it. You know what I mean? Now I'm competing. Now I done did it once. I'm not going to be the last one this time, or like, let me get up into the middle. And I think that goes with a lot in life. It's and as you all led us, and just thinking about being impactful. I'm in the little chat group with all the players still, right? We talk noise every now and then. Almost every week or so, we have a college story or what one of y'all as a coach did or something, or what something happened. But it's good to reflect on those things, because you start to think about what was really happening. As a youngster, in the moment, I'll say again, in the moment, you don't recognize the development that you're getting. I pulled out a old assessment that you gave of me. I was reading the assessment thing, and I was thinking, man, this thing is written poorly. I was like, this thing is written poorly. Now, because I do assessments all the time, right?
Right.
we got to go off a certain criteria. But when I looked at it, and I was thinking to myself, like, all right, this was a discussion, not necessarily who I was, but what I had to do. And then I kind of looked back, I was like, well, personally, I'm glad I just had somebody to sit down and write something about me and tell me what they saw, because it's the hardest evaluation is self-evaluation. You sometimes you got to have other people tell you about yourself in order for you to move forward. But it's not just anyone telling you. It has to be someone that you trust, someone that you love, someone that you know that cares about you, because that's where you can take honest, critical feedback. And if you're just an individual from a coaching perspective or from a commissioner perspective, if you're just that individual that shows up, all this all jacked up, right? And then you roll out, then people will have the tendency not to listen or take heed to what you got to say. But if you're an individual that's involved, like you said, when I leave here, I'm going to run and go catch this game. People see you, and people know that you're there. People know that you care. People know that you're invested. And when people who have those things offer criticism or critique, is people more apt to listen. So we are in our last 4 minutes of the episode. I wish we had way more time. But I want to yield it to you and give you the final words. And if there's anything that you want people out there who are listening or watching, if you want someone to take anything away from what we discussed today, what would that be, Coach?
Well, I hope everybody can have people in their lives like you, Ray. So the last time you and I probably spoke in direct, I mean, you came to Kent State, you brought Rakim with you, to Cleveland State. I don't remember what year that was, maybe 13 or 14. So we're probably talking 10 or 12 years ago. And the uniqueness of what this is there's such a bond that we could go 10 more years without picking up. And the next time we would see each other, we would embrace each other as true loved ones, as true people who did something together that was unique. It's not the same, right? Your bond that you have with players is way different too. Like I would never put that in there. It's one of my closest friends was my teammate who basically replaced me in the starting lineup. Like I spent the first 6 months hating that dude, and then he became so impactful in my life that he's one of, if not my closest, for sure my closest teammate. And the reality of it is, this is what is special. Like it really is special. Like when I think about being on here and talking with you, I'm humbled, Ray, because I started this podcast off with, if people really wanted to get into the history and know where you came from and what you've achieved and what you've accomplished, you're a success story that is second to none. And I really believe it's here. Your mindset is really a huge aspect of what you had. Some tough life circumstances. You overcame tough life circumstances. You took some hits, you took some body blows, right? You had a moment in that December day in Kent, Ohio, and we had to sift through what that was going to look like the rest of that semester and how you were going to recover from that moment. And you had a nice career going, you had a nice, cushy, easy path, and you said, no, I want more. I want to be more impactful. I want to touch people's lives. I want to do things. And then you crushed it in the military. Ray, I just say this as sincerely as possible. I know we're getting up to the last 30 seconds. I'll say it before I do get into tears, man. I stinking love you. I'm so proud of you. This is an unbelievable day for me to be able to spend some time talking to somebody that has meant a ton to me. Trust me, my man, you have probably taught me more than I have ever taught you, but I love you for the opportunity that we have, and I can't wait until we get to do it again.
Yeah, same. I really appreciate you. I hope that you already knew that. But hey, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for letting me be part of your team. Thank you for being on today and sharing the stories with everybody. Hopefully people out there can glean something from it. and move forward in their life. If you're missing just a little piece, I would say to you this quote that I heard a long time ago: "He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right." So, meaning it's all about your mindset, what you believe about yourself. And if you want to be a winner, you just got to go out there and seek to be one. So for everybody out there, this is CIME. I am your host, Rashawn. That's Coach D. And we will see you next time.